A fire on the most expensive carrier in history just changed the balance of power at the Strait of Hormuz. USS Gerald R. Ford, $13 billion, pulled out of the Red Sea. And the Pentagon's response was not another carrier. It was 4,400 Marines. We told you Tripoli would solve the last 10%. USS Tripoli, LHA-7, America class, 44,000 tons of pocket carrier with 20 F-35Bs and the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit embarked. She was on track, heading west toward Hormuz to provide the one thing three carrier strike groups could not: close-range air cover over the shipping lanes and Marines on shore controlling the corridor Iran spent 40 years fortifying. One ship, one unit, the final variable in an equation the Navy had been building since day one of Epic Fury. Then the Ford caught fire. March 12th, a blaze breaks out aboard USS Gerald R. Ford, not in the reactor spaces, not in the weapons magazines, but in the laundry facility. Lint, chemicals, confined steel. Ford had been running without pause for over 260 days, 9 months of continuous flight operations without a single scheduled maintenance port call. When you run a machine past its service interval, the machine reminds you. Ford's reminder came as fire. The blaze burned for 30 hours. Hundreds of sailors were treated for smoke inhalation, and the most advanced warship ever built was forced to withdraw to Suda Bay, Crete, for repairs, pulling carrier air cover out of the Red Sea at the worst possible moment. This was not combat damage. This was the price of overextension. Physics does not care how many billions you spend. Every machine has a limit, and Ford found hers at 261 days. The Red Sea went dark. No carrier overhead. The Houthi gap widened, and Iran, watching the most expensive warship in human history limp toward a repair dock, recalculated. What happened next is the part nobody predicted. 7 days after the fire, the Pentagon pulled USS Boxer, LHD-4, Wasp class, with the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit embarked, forward by 3 weeks. Boxer was not part of the Hormuz plan, but the fire changed the math, and the math demanded an answer the carrier fleet could not provide. So now, instead of one amphibious assault ship approaching Hormuz, there are two. Instead of 2,200 Marines, there are 4,400. Instead of a pocket carrier that fights only from the sky, there is also a ship with a well deck 266 feet long, carrying hovercraft that can deliver main battle tanks directly onto hostile shores. The plan called for a scalpel. The fire turned it into a scalpel, and a sledgehammer operating together. Did a fire on a $13 billion carrier accidentally create the most powerful amphibious force Hormuz has ever seen? If you are proud of the men and women who keep these ships running past every limit, type "proud" in the comments, and subscribe to Navy Decoded so you never miss a breakdown. To understand why the Pentagon chose Marines over carriers, start with a question no one expected to ask. The obvious question: why not just send another carrier? Because there is no other carrier to send. The United States Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers, the largest fleet of capital warships in human history. And right now, it is not enough. Lincoln is committed to the Arabian Sea. Truman enters a 4.5-year nuclear refueling overhaul this summer. Eisenhower just returned from a record-breaking deployment. The remaining hulls are either in maintenance, in training cycles, or on the wrong side of the planet. Carrier availability is the tightest it has been in a generation, nearly half the hulls unavailable at any given time. Ford's fire did not just remove one ship, it exposed a structural gap that no carrier can fill on the timeline the Red Sea demands. That is why the Pentagon reached for something that is not a carrier. USS Boxer is a Wasp-class amphibious assault ship, 40,000 tons, built around a concept that Tripoli deliberately abandoned. Where Tripoli sacrificed her well deck to double the hangar space for F-35Bs, Boxer kept it. A 266-foot-long, 50-foot-wide flooding bay that opens at the stern and launches 3 LCAC hovercraft directly into the ocean. Where Tripoli carries 20 F-35Bs and fights from the sky, Boxer carries 6 F-35Bs, but also carries the landing craft, the armored vehicles, the heavy equipment, and the Marines trained to put all of it on a hostile beach. The two ships were never designed to operate together. Tripoli is Flight 0 of the America class, the Navy's experiment in building a pocket carrier by removing the well deck. Boxer is the previous generation, the ship the Navy built when it still believed Marines needed to come from the sea, not only from the sky. Two opposite philosophies, two opposite answers to the same question. How do you project power ashore? Think of it this way. Tripoli is a sports car. Fast, agile, enormous range, but no trunk. Boxer is a pickup truck. Slower, uglier, but it carries everything you need to build something when you arrive. Sending Tripoli alone to Hormuz is like showing up to a construction site in a Ferrari. Impressive, but you cannot pour a foundation from a two-seater. Separately, each ship solves half the problem. Together, they solve the whole thing, and an accident just put them in the same theater at the same time. Two ships, two opposite designs, three problems that neither can solve alone. Watch what happens when you combine them. Three fortified islands sit directly inside the Hormuz shipping corridor. Abu Musa, Greater Tomb, Lesser Tomb. Iran seized them in 1971 and spent 5 decades turning them into unsinkable weapons platforms, anti-ship missile batteries, coastal radar arrays, artillery positions, IRGC garrisons. After 2 weeks of epic fury airstrikes, any surviving launcher on those islands still threatens every vessel transiting the corridor at point-blank range. You have to neutralize these islands, but the water around them is mined. Conventional landing craft sailing through those minefields would be suicide. That is exactly why Iran fortified the islands in the first place. The mines were never just a naval weapon. They were a moat. Iran believed that moat made the islands untouchable. Tripoli solves half the problem. Marines insert by vertical envelopment. MV-22 Ospreys and CH-53 helicopters fly over the minefields. They never touch the water. Strike teams land on the high ground, neutralize radar installations and missile launchers, and extract. But they carry only personal weapons and light equipment. No tanks, no armored vehicles, no heavy weapons. They can raid, but they cannot hold. Boxer completes the equation. Her well deck opens, 266 feet long, 50 feet wide, and 3 LCAC hovercraft launch at over 40 knots. Here is the engineering that changes everything. An LCAC does not float. It flies, 7 feet above the water on a pressurized air cushion. Pressure-activated mines need concentrated hull contact to trigger. The LCAC never touches the water. Where every conventional vessel in the fleet cannot go, the LCAC flies through. Run the math. A conventional landing craft makes 10 knots through mined water, 5 nautical miles of minefield, 30 minutes of lethal exposure. An LCAC crosses the same distance at over 40 knots, 7.5 minutes, 7 feet above the mines. 30 minutes versus 7. That is the math that makes this assault possible. LCACs carry M1 Abrams main battle tanks, armored assault vehicles, heavy weapons. They deliver all of it directly onto the island's beach, while simultaneously, Ospreys from Tripoli insert Marines onto the high ground from above. Iran must now defend from the top and the bottom at the same time. Heliborne Marines on the ridgeline, armored vehicles on the beach. This is not a raid anymore. This is a full amphibious assault. 2,200 Marines could raid and withdraw. 4,400 Marines seize and hold. Islands solved. But the strait is not only islands, it is also 300 square nautical miles of mined water, and minesweepers are the most defenseless ships in any fleet. LCS mine countermeasure ships operate the most advanced mine hunting technology in the world. Airborne laser detection systems, unmanned surface vessels dragging sonar, underwater drones that identify and destroy individual mines. We explained how that technology works in a previous video. But the ships themselves carry almost no defensive weapons. They are slow, predictable, fragile, sitting targets doing the most important job in the strait. They face 2 threats simultaneously. From above, Iranian surveillance drones locate the LCS, transmit coordinates to mobile launchers hidden along the coastline, and a cruise missile follows within minutes. From the surface, IRGC fast attack craft, 50-knot boats armed with Nasser-1 anti-ship missiles, still number in the hundreds, hidden in coves and inlets along the Iranian shore. They need 1 boat to get through. Tripoli provides the roof. F-35Bs on combat air patrol detect surveillance drones before those drones transmit targeting coordinates. Kill the drone, break the kill chain. No coordinates reach the launcher. The missile never fires. Tripoli protects the minesweepers from above. But who protects them from the surface? Tripoli carries no surface craft. F-35Bs are fast, but they cannot be everywhere at once. Fast boats are small, fast, and difficult to track from the air in cluttered coastal waters. Boxer provides the walls. Her well deck deploys rigid-hull inflatable boats and patrol craft that establish a surface screen around the minesweepers. AH-1 Zulu Viper attack helicopters fly low-altitude patrols, hunting fast boats at close range with Hellfire missiles before they reach engagement distance. Tripoli is the roof. Boxer is the walls. The minesweepers work inside. For the first time at Hormuz, mine clearance operations have a full protective bubble, air cover from above, and surface defense around the perimeter. The timeline for clearing the shipping corridor compresses from months to weeks, so the islands can be seized, the mines can be cleared. But there is a third problem, and it is the one that determines whether Hormuz opens for weeks or for years. Seizing an island takes a day. Holding an island takes weeks. Marines on shore need ammunition, fuel, food, spare parts, and replacement equipment continuously. The concept is called Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations. Marines establish HIMARS launchers, radar arrays, and forward arming and refueling points on small islands and coastlines, controlling the strait with shore-based firepower instead of ships. HIMARS already sank Iranian warships during Epic Fury, firing from Bahrain. The weapon works. The question is logistics. Tripoli can resupply by air. MV-22 Ospreys carry up to 20,000 pounds maximum, but at the combat ranges required for Hormuz resupply, effective payload drops to around 8,000 pounds per sortie. That covers ammunition, medical supplies, food. It does not cover bulk fuel, vehicles, heavy generator sets, or HIMARS reload pallets. If the only supply line runs through Ospreys, those forward bases remain temporary outposts, strong enough to shoot, too fragile to stay. Boxer solves what Tripoli cannot. LCAC hovercraft carry over 60 tons per trip. Fuel bladders, ammunition pallets, replacement vehicles, generator sets, everything a forward base needs to sustain operations indefinitely. LCACs fly over the minefields surrounding the islands, deliver cargo onto the beach, cycle back to Boxer, reload, and repeat. Turnaround measured in hours, not days. Run the math on the logistics. One LCAC carries 60 tons. That is roughly 120,000 pounds per trip. One Osprey at combat range carries 8,000 pounds. One LCAC trip equals 15 Osprey sorties. Boxer carries 3 LCACs. 3 trips per day per craft. That is 9 LCAC runs delivering 540 tons of supplies to forward bases daily. To match that by air alone, Tripoli would need to fly 135 Osprey sorties per day. The airframes cannot sustain that rate. The math is not close. Without the well deck, EABO is a concept. With the well deck, EABO is a supply chain. EABO positions fed only by Osprey are temporary outposts. EABO positions fed by Osprey and LCAC are permanent fire bases. Marines do not just fly in, shoot, and fly out. Marines arrive, establish, and stay. Fixed positions, sustainable supply, persistent firepower. Iran now faces American positions on territory it assumed was untouchable, and it cannot cut the supply line because the supply line flies over the very mines Iran laid to protect that territory. 3 problems, 3 solutions. Each one dangerous alone. But what happens when you run all 3 at the same time? Run all 3 scenarios simultaneously. That is what 2 ARGs enable. And that is where the math turns lethal. Because these 3 operations do not just run in parallel, they feed each other. Scenario 1 executes. Marines seize Abu Musa. Missile launchers on the island go dark. Tankers transiting the corridor no longer face point-blank fire from fixed positions. Immediately safer. But here's what the island seizure also does. It removes Iranian observation posts that were tracking minesweeper movements. With the islands neutralized, LCS ships can operate closer to the corridor without being geolocated from above. That accelerates Scenario 2. Mine countermeasure ships begin systematic clearance of the shipping lanes, operating inside the protective bubble. The mine clearance enables the logistics. The logistics sustain the positions. The positions protect the mine clearance. And Scenario 3 locks the cycle in place. EABO positions on seized islands deploy HIMARS covering the entire width of the strait. 26 F-35Bs between the two ships provide local air superiority without a carrier inside the Gulf. Shore-based Marines control what ships alone never could. Persistent, around-the-clock coverage from positions that cannot be sunk. The result is not three separate operations. It is a single interlocking system where each piece makes the others stronger. Take one away, and the system degrades. Run all three together, and the system becomes self-reinforcing. Now look at this from Tehran. Iran has three positions to defend simultaneously: the islands, the coastline, and the water in between. But the Navy, the air defenses, the factories, all gone after epic fury. What remains is the IRGC ground force, hidden fast boats, and whatever mobile launchers survived. Concentrate on the islands. The coastline lies open. Fortify the coastline. The islands fall. Disperse everywhere. Nothing holds anywhere. The equation has no correct answer, because Iran built its defense for a navy that fights from the sea, not Marines who ride hovercraft over the very minefields that were supposed to make this impossible. This is the accidental advantage. No commander wanted the fire. No planner anticipated it. But the chain reaction produced a force configuration Iran never prepared to counter. Iran looked at the fire and calculated a window of opportunity. The reality: by the time Iran finished recalculating, the answer was already in the water. Be honest about the risks. Mine clearance still takes weeks. EABO doctrine has never been tested at this scale. Casualties are a real possibility, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something the physics does not support. But the trajectory just changed. The equation shifted from a months-long siege to an active solution. Marines, hovercraft, and fighters solving the problem from two ships that were never supposed to be in the same ocean. The timeline compressed from months to weeks. The initiative shifted from Iran to the ships closing on its doorstep. If this breakdown helped you understand how two ships and one fire changed the balance at Hormuz, subscribe to Navy Decoded. We do not guess here, we engineer. Did a fire on a $13 billion carrier accidentally create the most powerful amphibious force Hormuz has ever seen? Yes, accidentally. Three paradoxes close the loop. The fire happened not because of a design flaw, but because a machine ran for 261 straight days. $13 billion buys the most advanced carrier afloat. It does not buy infinite endurance. That is engineering truth. But one carrier breaks, and the system responds with two amphibious ships, 4,400 Marines, 26 stealth fighters, hovercraft that fly over minefields, and a well deck that turns raids into permanent occupations. Only one navy on the planet can lose a carrier and come back stronger, because of the chain reaction. That is industrial depth. And Iran solved the right equation: mines, missiles, fast boats, 40 years of preparation, but for the wrong variable. The fire did not weaken the force, it reconfigured it. And the reconfigured force is more dangerous than the original, because Iran prepared for carriers, not Marines. And Marines just arrived.